Okay. Cactus kit, spike. So firstly, there are a lot of colors in yarn in this one. And so I looked at each cactus and matched to the color names, you know, like some of them, there's darker ones and lighter ones and lime and olive. I wasn't sure which of those were. So my conclusion is lime, avocado, olive, dark green, and then rust brown. So I went ahead, just for my own sanity, and labeled the guys on here with the letters, because some of these are similar, and you know, just to keep track. So we want to start, it's on the front here instead of the back, with the pots with color A, which is the rust color. So I'll put this stuff to the side and get that color and come back. Okay, so color A, rust. I'm going to try to find the end of the yarn from the inside of the ball, which is right here. And we are going to get started. So right here next to round 1, there's RS, that's right side. That tells us that the side of our work that we're going to be facing is our right side. When we get started, I'll show you more what that means. But we're going to chain 2, 6 single crochet, and second chain from the hook. So first we need to make a slip knot. So bring the tail of your yarn, this is how I do it, around my thumb, hold it between fingers of my left hand, and then pinch this yarn. The yarn connected to the ball on this side is considered the working yarn. The yarn on this end is the tail. So pinching the working yarn, take that loop and pass it over, and then grab this loop here and tighten down. There's tons of ways to do slip knots. If you don't like that one, there's so many, but I just do that one. It's quick and easy. Put it on your hook, tighten it down. You want it to slide around. You don't want it too tight where it can't do that, but you do want it snug up there. And then we're going to chain 2. So chaining, that's CH2. You're going to basically, you want to push your hook back against your working yarn, rotate it so the hook catches that yarn, and pull it through the loop on your hook. That's one chain. This little V is one chain. So we're going to do that again. Pull it through. You want these to be, as you work, you want to try to make these even in size. When you're chaining and doing single crochets, you want to try to make things be the same size with even tension. So now we need to do 6 single crochet in the second chain from the hook. This is the loop on our hook. This does not count as a chain. This here is the first chain from our hook, these 2 strands, and these 2 strands down here are the second chain from our hook. So we're going to insert into the second chain from our hook under this first loop. Then we're going to yarn over and grab that yarn, pull it through, bring up a loop. So now we have 2 loops on our hook. Now to complete this single crochet, we're going to yarn over and pull this through both loops on the hook like so. I usually tighten down a little. That's 1 single crochet. So this here is the top of the single crochet that we just made. Now we need to do 5 more of these into the same exact spot. So insert, pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook. And then again, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook, and we're working our way around here in a circle. This is 4, back in for 5, and back in one more time for 6. So now we want to join with a slip stitch to the beginning single crochet, so the first single crochet we made. Now in this case, we'll just count backwards. So again, this is the loop on our hook. We don't count that as a stitch. So this here is the top of one single crochet, this little V. Usually count by 2s. So this is 2. This is 3 and 4 here. And then this is 5 and 6. Now the very first round, it's kind of like twisting and laying on top here. As we go further out, it'll be more around the edges on the outside. But so this is our first single crochet that we made. If you want, after you do that, you can just place a stitch marker in it to keep track of it, but you can always count back. So we're going to slip under both loops of this stitch. So both of them there. And then to slip stitch, we're just going to pull up a loop and then immediately pull that loop through the loop on our hook. Slip stitch to close that. That's the first round, 6 stitches. So now we are going to chain 1. So yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. And we are going to do 2 single crochet in each stitch around. These are increases. So this starts in the stitch that we just joined in, because this is the first single crochet of the round. So into the same place where we just went, we're going to insert again under both loops. Always work under both loops unless they tell you otherwise. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through both loops on your hook for 1 single crochet. And now back into the same opening, same exact spot. Back in, do a 2nd single crochet for 2. If you want to place a stitch marker here in this first stitch just so you can find it, that's fine. But I'll show you how to find your chain and your slip stitch in your chain. So now we're going to work into the next stitch, which is this one here, under both loops of that one. And again, we're going to do 2 single crochet, and we're going to do this in each stitch around for a total of 12. So here's our next stitch right here. Okay. And now this is our next stitch right here. Now you could be counting these to keep track. What are we on? 2, 4, 6, 8. So this next one is 9, 10. And this next one, our last one, 11 and 12. Now, it may look like there are 2 stitches here before we get to the little bump up that starts our next row. But this here is the slip stitch we made to join. This is the last stitch of the round. So I'm going to do 2 single crochet into this one. 1, 2. And now we want to join again to the first single crochet. So like I said, this right here, these 2 loops, this is our slip stitch. Then we have this kind of like sideways sort of set of loops. They're a little harder to see, but right here and here. This is our chain that we chain to get that height for the next, starting the next round. So we don't work into this either. So you can think of it kind of as skipping 2 or 1.5, but basically we're just not working into our slip stitch to join or our chain 1. We're working into the first single crochet of the round, which is right here, these 2 loops right here. So we're going to slip under both of these and then do another slip stitch. So pull up a loop and then pull that through the loop on your hook right away. And that is the end of round 2. Now, this method, the chain 2, leaves a bit of a hole there. We can use this tail to tighten that up a little bit. So I guess might as well do that now. So get your needle, which I'll be back because mine's at the bottom of the bag and the bag is loud. Okay, so this end is technically, it's not unsecure in the sense that it will unravel. So this is an unnecessary step, but I think it just looks a little better overall. So I'm just threading this on, and I'm just gonna go through a couple of stitches around the edge here. And if my tail is too short, sometimes I'll just sort of put the needle in through where I want it to go first, and then I'll thread it through. And this is just to close this up a bit. So I'm basically just going under stitches, sort of in a circle around that opening, and then I'll pull it to tighten it down and make that opening smaller. So I'm going to pull this. Now you can see it's much smaller. And now I'm just going to secure this end so that it doesn't loosen. So I'm going to insert my needle under a nearby stitch. And this, what we're working into right now, since we turned our work over, we're now on the wrong side, which in this case, that's the inside. It's not the outside part that we're going to see. So I'm going to thread that through. I'm going to hold this loop so that I can't pull that all the way through. And then I'm just going to take this and feed it through this loop. I could put it back on the needle if I needed to, or I could use the crochet hook to grab it. And I'm just going to knot that down. And that's just to keep it from unraveling. So this is our wrong side. And this will be what's on the inside of the pot. This is our right side where we started. And if you want, when you start on the beginning, your tail is, sticking out of like the wrong side. If you think you'll get it confused, you can always place like a stitch marker just on the surface of this side or something, a bobby pin or whatever, just to remind you. But round 3, so we're going to chain 1. We're going to start each of these rounds with the chain 1 and end each one with the join. So I'm going to chain 1, and then we are going to do this set of instructions, the single crochet in the next single crochet and 2 single crochet in the next single crochet, and we're going to repeat that in the set of brackets around. In this case, it's 6 times. So again, starting in the stitch that we just joined to, the first stitch of the round, we are going to do 1 single crochet. So insert under both loops, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook. Now in your next stitch right here, we're going to do an increase. So do 2 single crochet there. So that's 1, 2. Okay, now in our next stitch here, we are going to do 1 single crochet because we're going back to the beginning of those brackets. And then the next here, 2. And we're going to repeat this all the way around. You can count this if you want. You could count 1 and then 2, 3 and count it in 3s around. You could kind of count cumulatively because you're going to end up with 18 stitches. Whatever helps you keep track. You could do 1, 1, 2. All the way around. Now, a thing that is useful is to be able to spot your increases from your single crochets. So this here, right here, there are 2 loops, 2 strands coming down, going around the bar of this stitch, okay? And if you look in the corners, you can see, this bar ends here, and over here it like ends right here on this side. This is 1 single crochet. This is what 1 single crochet looks like from the side into this stitch, into this hole. Now right here, if we look at the seam from corner to corner, we now have more than 2. We have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little bit fuzzy, but there's 4 in there. This is an increase. just one single crochet in there, increase. Now, to me, the increases tend to make a little bit of a bigger hole. It's like they make this little arch, but it's good to be able to spot that and to know what they look like. So we're on our last 2 stitches of the round. So single crochet and then increase. Now we again have a slip stitch, which is this right here. So here's the edge of the stitch we just worked into. That's what this is. Then here is the slip stitch, and here is the chain. So this is the first single crochet of the round that we just did. So that's where we're going to slip to. Now before we do that, I'm going to do a stitch count real quick. Probably want to do these every couple rows to make sure that everything's going fine. Now when you're doing these brackets, if these intervals work out, because when you're doing these brackets, unless they say otherwise, you should end on whatever the second part of the bracket is. So in this case, it's an increase. If you end on an increase in your rounds and your intervals work out, you're probably fine, but it's still good to check sometimes. So we're not going to count our join stitch or our chain. We're going to start here and count around. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, which is what we want to have. And each one of these is the top of a single crochet. So we are going to join to the first single crochet there with a slip stitch and chain 1. Now this next round, it's similar to what we just did, except instead of doing 1 single crochet and then the increase, we are going to do single crochet in the next 2. So 1 single crochet in the first, 1 single crochet in the second, and then the increase in the third, and repeat that around. So I'm not going to demonstrate this around the whole way. I'll just do the first set, and then you just repeat it around just like we did. So starting in the stitch where we join, we're going to do 1, and then in the next stitch 2, and then in the next stitch we will do 3, and then 4. These are not numbers of stitches, these are just, you know, obviously we didn't do 4 stitches there. So anyways, so single crochet in the next 2 and then increase and repeat that around. So 1, 1, 2, all the way around, and I'll be back for the join. Okay, so this is the end of round 4, and I've just done my last increase. So I have my slip stitch to join here, my chain here. This is the first single crochet of the round, so we're going to slip to that. And now the next round is going to be a step of what we just did. So chain 1, and now we're going to single crochet in the first 3 and then increase. And your work will curl, excuse me, toward you. That's fine. It'll get its shape eventually, or I just usually kind of push it back as I go. And so we are going to, in this stitch that we joined to here, do our first single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, and then our increase here in the next 1, 2, and can repeat that all the way around, and then I'll be back for the join. Okay, so end around 5, and here is our slip stitch. Here is our chain, this little sideways one. So I'm going to slip to the first single crochet there and chain 1, and now we're just stepping it up again. So we're going to do our 4 single crochet starting in the stitch that we joined to. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then our increase. Oh, so okay, so if you feel a tightness, You can't raise your hook. You may have caught a loop. It happens frequently, you know, splitting the yarn. So in this case, I'm just gonna, since it's clear and I can really see it, I'm just gonna tuck under and put it back where it goes. But sometimes you may have to slip your yarn out, and then you can even carefully pull that stitch out to get past the point where it split. Then pull back up, insert, and then redo. Where were we? 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the beginning of our increase. Increase. Okay. So we're going to repeat that around, and then I'll be back. And this right here, you might see this. This is where we are joining and chaining. You're not doing something wrong if you can see this here. It's just sort of the natural. There are people come up with ways to do, you know, less visible ones, but I haven't really bothered with those as yet. So repeat that around, 4 single crochet and then the increase, and then I'll be back. So I want to show you the difference real fast. This is something that when I started, it confused me sometimes when figuring out what stitch to work into next. So I just completed a single crochet, okay, and this tiny edge here is the edge of the stitch that I just worked into, and you can see how my stitch is kind of standing up away from my work, and I can pretty clearly see that this is my next stitch here to work into. So I'm gonna do the increase now, and the increase sits a little differently. So it's sort of leaning. You can't see that corner as well. And a couple of times, it's a little, in this size, it's a little bit more, I think, easier to see. But I did have some trouble when I started, that because this was leaning over and sometimes it was sort of covering the stitch here, I would accidentally skip it and work into this next stitch over here. So I try to be in the habit of, after I do my increase, to sort of stand it up like it would be standing if it was a single crochet, and then I can see, okay, there's the edge of that stitch. That's the next stitch that I work into. But naturally it sits over to the side, like it's leaning a little bit. So that's a thing. And I'm almost done this one, so I'll just stay here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. Okay, now we are back to slip stitch to join, chain 1, and we will slip to our first single crochet of the round. Chain 1. Now, whoa, that was 4, right? Yeah, that was single crochet 4. So basically same thing except 5 this time. So stitch that we just joined to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase in the next. So 1, 2, and repeat that around, and I'll be back. Okay, so this is end around 7. We have our slip stitch to join our chain 1 there, so we're going to slip stitch to the first stitch of the round. And I know it might seem redundant to some people that I am demonstrating each one of these, even though they're very similar. But I tend to see, I caught a loop somewhere. There it is. There we go. I tend to try to err on the side of doing more demonstration, not less. So chain 1. And now we are doing 6 and then increase. Now, rows, like, if there's a bunch of these later, which I don't think there will be, the type of the pattern, but, oh my goodness. If there's a bunch of these later, I might not do every one. Or, once we do our first round of single crochet in each stitch around, I won't demonstrate every one of those, probably, because it's very simple. But, that was our chain 1, and we're doing 6 this time. So, 1, 2... 3, 4, 5, 6, and then in the next our increase. So 1, 2. Okay, so repeat that around and I'll be back. Okay, so I'm almost done round 8. And I just wanted to show you real quick, a lot of times as I go, my slip stitch gets a little smaller, and so it can look a little different. This is the last stitch of my round that I'm going to work into. This is where my increase will go. This tiny loop here and this loop here is my slip to join, and then these two are my chain here. This is the first single crochet, so it's a smaller space there, but it's still the 2 stitches there that we're not working into. I don't know if yours will also get smaller, but this one here and that one there. So slip stitch to join, chain 1, and now with 7. So into the same spot that we just joined, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, in these rows where we're doing it just one step up of single crochet each time, the last stitch of your set, so in this case my 7, will be in the first stitch of my last round's increase, and then your increase will be in the second stitch of that increase, which is just kind of fun trivia. So that's 7. I mean, if you recognize your increases, you could do this part without counting, because each of your increases, you would just do your last stitch in the first one and then your increase in the second stitch of that increase. So repeat that around, and I will be back after that. Okay, so that's end of round 9. Here is our slip to join. Here's our chain. So I'm going to slip stitch to this first stitch here, chain 1, and then single crochet in the next 8, and then increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, increase in the next. And I think we're almost done with these increase rows. So repeat that around and I'll be back. Okay, so that's the end of 10. Here's our slip to join, here's our chain. So we're going to slip stitch to our first single crochet there, and then chain 1. And also, I realized I haven't mentioned, counting rounds when you're joining is pretty straightforward. So this first little circle in here, this small circle, is our first round. What's, between my thumbs right now. And then each concentric circle out from there is a round. So I usually count, I cover this one and I say 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. That's counting rounds in the round like this when you're joining. So 11, this is our last one of these increases. So we're going to do single crochet in the first 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then our increase, And we are going to repeat that all the way around, and then I'll be back. Okay, now this is the end of round 11. So slip stitch, chain, we're going to join here. Now, this is the pot. The dirt is with this color, and you repeat what we just did as the beginning instruction for the dirt. So you do rounds 1 through 11, just like we did here. So I'm not going to do that when we get there. I'll just pick up with round 12. So when you get to the dirt, you just take this color, do everything we just did all the way up through 11, and then we'll pick up with 12. So now, 12. Working in back loop only, chain 1, single crochet in each stitch around. Now, this will serve as the demonstration for single crochet in each stitch around. The only difference is in the future, when it says single crochet in each stitch around, you'll work under both loops like we have been normally, but everything else will be the same. Now, in this case, we are going to be working in the back loop only. And actually, I'm going to take out my, no, I'm not, because we already joined, so it's fine. So this loop here, if you look at it from straight on, it looks kind of like a little, you know, rope going across. This is the front loop, the one closest to you. It's always the one closest to you. If I turn this over, this one is now the one closest to me, so that is the front loop. But in this case, this is our right side facing us. This is our wrong side. This is the front loop, and this back here, the other half, is the back loop. We're going to do our single crochets in this round, only going under that back loop. So we're going to slip under here, right here, just this one single strand. We're not gathering this guy, this horizontal guy. He's not part of our work here. And we're not taking this front strand, just this one single strand. So pull up a loop, pull through both loops on the hook, and you are left with that front strand visibly there. That's what we want. So that's one single crochet. And keep track, because as I said before, this curls and rounds and things. So keep track and make sure it's not folding over. You're not working into something over here. Just be mindful. And this, I'll cover the front one. This back loop all the way around is what we're working into. So single crochet in the next. We'll do this all the way around. Now, normal single crochet in each stitch around rows, you do the same thing, just one single crochet each all the way around, except you're just working under both loops of those stitches. So I won't demonstrate those. But just take your time, find that loop. We only want that one loop. And you can already see that it leaves this little raised rope looking design. Another thing it does is it helps encourage a turn, because now we're going to go up the pot. So it helps to encourage that shaping. This is a big row to be doing single crochet in each stitch around. I had some requests for kits from Hobby Lobby, or not Hobby Lobby, Five Below, but I couldn't find them. So I don't know if Hobby Lobby just isn't carrying them right now, or just where I am. So I might not be able to do those. Okay. Now this does force me to go a little bit slower, but I can probably get a little bit more speed going. This is what, 66 stitches? I caught another loop here. There. There we go. Now, I guess technically you can leave those loops on your hook. It'll make a tighter spot in that area, and sometimes it's visible. I like to fix them because then they won't be visible and there won't be a tight spot. But sometimes they can make it really hard to work into a stitch. Okay, so here we are, 60 some stitches later, and that is back loop only. So here is our slip stitch to join right here. There's our chain one, and there is our raised design there. So I'm going to slip stitch to our first single crochet here, split this loop, so I'm going to raise that up past where it's split and reinsert my hook, and I'm going to chain one. Now 13, 14, and 15 is single crochet and each stitch around. So like we just did, except under both loops this time, one single crochet in each stitch around. Don't join to your slip stitch or your chain one, join to the first single crochet of the round, then chain one for 13, 14, and 15. So I'm going to do those three and then I'll be back. Okay, so I didn't say before, but you can totally, and I would recommend writing out 13, 14, 15 and crossing them off as you go. And I just wanted to make a note. So as far as counting rounds, this little division here from the back loop only, 12 is going to be this round here, not this round here. It's the round after. So if your count through here is correct and you want to just check where you're at, you can just count from here, starting with 12 as being this row. So 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so here's where we are. After that, we're starting to take shape. Now we have some more increases because, you know, why not? So single crochet in the next 10 increase. So this probably isn't necessary at this point, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Sometimes you just gotta double check. And then increase. Okay, repeat that around. And then the next round is single crochet in each stitch around. So I'm gonna finish this round out, join, chain, and then do the next round of single crochet in each stitch around. And then I'll be back. Also, this is gonna be bigger than, like, I don't know. I was expecting like that. I mean, I know that there's measurements on the box. I just didn't particularly look at them. So anyways, I'll be back after round 17. Okay, so this is the end of 17. So I'm going to join to the first single crochet over here, ignoring the slip and the chain. And now we are doing 18, so single crochet in the next 11 and then increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, increase. 1, 2. Repeat that all the way around. This is getting quite big. And then 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 are all single crochet in each stitch around. So join, chain 1, single crochet in each stitch around. So I'm going to finish out this row, do those 5 rows, right? 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. And then be back. Okay, so I'm on the last round, 23, and I am this much short of finishing this row. Now I measured, this says, I don't know what this means because it says there are 5 sizes made. I don't know what that means, but because there's not, as far as I know. But I would assume then that this first measurement is the length for rounds 1 through 7. So 7 to 7 across, like 2, 4, 6, 7, and then count 7 this way and measure that across. I am just slightly over 2.25 inches, like literally less than 2.5, but a little more than 2.25. So I don't think it's quite a tension issue, but I do think if I did everything tighter, then I would probably just have enough, but I still don't think I would have enough for the tail for sewing. But say that you do have enough and you made it all the way back. All you do at that point is to this stitch here, you'd basically just slip stitch here, like so, tighten it down, and then guesstimate a tail for sewing the dirt to the pot and cut that length off and then pull this out through. Now, I may just, I don't know, I might just take out some rows, do them in a tighter tension, and hope that gives me enough in between now and then. But for now, that's going to be it for this. Now, your homework is to do the beginning of the dirt, because I'm going to have that done by the time I do the next one, because it's the same as the beginning of the pot. And I'll probably rework this a little bit to give myself a little bit more length, tighten things down a little bit more. I don't think that I'm big enough versus the gauge to account for this, because like I said, I'm slightly over, but maybe I am, and maybe, who knows. But we'll rework this, we'll get that last little bit of length out, and you know, see you next time. Hope this was helpful.